How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited. Thanks for the invitation. And I'm excited about what you're doing. I think there's a big need for it. So happy to contribute and share any insights.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, we're going to get into your business right away. I want you to share with the audience how we met and where we met before we go on to some things specific about you.
Sure. We met at the National MBA conference. It was a virtual conference this year, which was the first time they did that. And I'm a member of National Black MBA Association. I believe it was during one of the panel discussions in the chat room. I think we exchanged some point of views and opinions, and then we linked up on, it might have been LinkedIn, and now we're here.
All right. And it's great. I want to stress to our audience, especially those in undergrad, how important it is to network. When you go to these conferences, try to find a lounge area and be sure to highlight someone you would like to network in. You never know what's in store for you when you engage and network and things like that. And I'm so fortunate to have Alain on the show with us, and we're going to get this message out to as many people as possible. I promise that, and he's going to help me as well. So before we get into your review of the conference and the experience that you had, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So again, Alain Leroy, I raised in New York, grew up in Queens. My parents are from the Caribbean. They're immigrants from Haiti. So I was raised first generation born and raised in the United States. I have two sisters. And my field of expertise, I've spent the last 25 years in corporate America in various consulting and corporate environments, really focused on innovation and what I call business transformation. And that's really where you help an organization achieve breakthrough performance. It usually requires a little bit of technology, software advancements, combined with business process re-engineering or automation, as well as the people side of it. Because if people don't adopt what you're implementing, there's no results that are going to be come out of that. So that whole field is kind of business transformation. You know, it's the culmination of all my education, training, and experience. I started out as a software engineer. I have a bachelor's in computer science. And then I went on 5 years after that, after doing IT consulting and working at startups, I got my MBA. And what that did is that shifted me to the business side of technology. My background is a little different. When I was in the 4th grade, I started computer programming.
Wow.
It's a very unique situation where my school happened to have computers. This is back, I'm dating myself, this is back in the 1980s, you know?
Wow.
And my mom came home, barely spoke English, but had this flyer and asked if I wanted to take these computer programming classes. I mean, I went to a Catholic elementary school, and they offered this opportunity. I took it and I fell in love with computer programming. It's like an after school program in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I remember asking the professor back then, if I want to do this, what do I study? And he said, computer science. So I was like, okay, And that's it. That was it for me. And I was able to go to a public high school in New York City, which had majors. I majored in computer science in high school, participated in computer competitions. I joined a great organization called Black Data Processing Associates, and competed at national computer programming competitions. And I went out to college and I majored in computer science, received my bachelor's degree at Rochester Institute of Technology. While I was there, I joined the phenomenal fraternity Alpha Phi Alpha.
Yay. My husband's in it. I told him to mention that.
Yeah,
I asked him to mention that.
and,
Okay.
and you know, so, and I'm kind of highlighting some key points in my career and my journey. The journey never ends, but you know, joining the fraternity was very, very instrumental also, because at that point, now I was surrounded by like-minded revolutionary thinkers, progressive thinkers, African American, Caribbean American. Like, it's just a very diverse, phenomenal fraternity that uplifts our community. And that really challenged me to continue to elevate myself, because I never wanted my brothers to do better than me, right? Like, it's that friend.
Yeah, it was competitive somewhat, right? I get it. I get it. Let me ask you this. Where I want to rewind and go back to when you've already decided at the age of 4. I have elders who are still trying to figure it out what they want to do. And here you are at the tender age of 4, and you knew that you wanted to do computer science. First of all, I didn't hear about it until I was in college. And I'm sure I'm older than you. My son is also a computer science undergrad major. He just graduated. But you're at the age of 4 and you know you want to write this code. Your mother was just starting out, becoming more fluent with English. And by the way, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the language of computer science is universal. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, it is to some extent. Yeah.
To some extent, yes. And you're trying to figure this out. And everyone, and I get it, everyone who's listening does not know what they want to do. They don't have the opportunities that he had at his high school in Queens. But how did you stay on that path? And we just heard a lot of roses, but were there any thorns? Kind of take us through that at the tender age of 4.
Well, so it was the fourth grade. So I think, I don't know how old I was. Yeah, what are you, 12, 13? I'm not sure exactly the age.
I
Maybe
forgot.
I don't know. But in the fourth grade, yeah. So, I mean, it was a long time ago. But I think that there's a lot of books about this, right? There's a great book called Outliers.
Outliers.
And
Okay, and we'll put that in the link to everyone. Okay.
and it's written by Malcolm Gladwell, who's from Jamaica. And he writes about, and you know, again, we're all born in different situations. It's a matter of how you deal with that, right? It's a matter of how you deal with the deck that you've been given. You know, your future is what you make it. And I don't know what was in my mom or my parents' mind, but the fact that this is a funny story. So the fact that when they were in their 20s, they left their country.
Wow.
Like, I would have never been able, like, I've always thought my parents were really conservative until I got older and I looked at, wait a minute, I would have never been able to leave my homeland, my country, which is a proud nation, first Black republic in the Western Hemisphere, and go to a place where you barely spoke the language. But why they did that was to give us, their children, a better opportunity. So that always is in the back of my head, and everything I decide to do or not to is that, wow, the burden of that on my shoulders, I have to elevate the bar, right? I have to continue their journey forward. And each of us has that story. I mean, we're all part of the Black diaspora community, right? Whether we left Africa intentionally or unintentionally, right? We're all part of this collective Black diaspora community. Some of us found our way to the United States through the Caribbean or through other countries or came directly to the United States, but we're all part of this really diverse community. And once you start to really understand that and the historical significance of that, then it really helps you to really kind of always just strive, right? Despite the circumstances we're in, how do we succeed? And that's
Yeah.
the mentality that I've always had. I don't know why my parents ingrained it in me, but so when I really didn't have a choice. I mean, my mom was coming home asking me, but she was really telling me, right? And I think it's a combination of I've always been good at math also, and that's important if you take on a field like software engineering. You know, you have to study heavy in calculus, math, science, biology, all the STEM subjects. And I was also, I like to draw. So I remember in high school where when I had to select a major, it was either going to be architecture or computer science, because I like both things. Architecture, you know, in terms of construction, drawings and stuff like that, or computer science. And thankfully, I went to technology. So I think really the book Outliers, what it highlights is there are no overnight successes. There really are not. And in his book, he says he did the research and he has the statistics to show that really people become an overnight success after they've spent like 10,000 exhaustive hours of sacrifice, relentless focus, passion in a field. And then
Wow.
they start to emerge as these leaders, pioneers, from sports athletes to Bill Gates to Michael Jordan to Biggie Smalls to Jay-Z. Like as a kid, like these rappers started studying dictionaries and words. And he traces, it was about at the point where they reached 10,000 hours when they just started, they became like a break overnight success. And you know, that's something to really keep in mind for as you are growing up and trying to decide, you know, what do I focus on? And even as parents raising kids, you know, as soon as you could identify these things that your children does really well, then it's a matter of finding the community and being able to nourish that as much as you can. And then hopefully it turns into something that becomes their identity and their success.
That's a wonderful story. And it sounds like you're in your set place. Well, actually, you're going toward your set place. And have you got the 10,000 hours in, you think?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a funny thing, and this is personal for me, but I'm at a point now where I kid with my wife that I've kind of taken a sabbatical from corporate America. So since the pandemic, I've been struggling with some things going on out there and a combination of things. So my focus right now is more around the future of technology, of innovation, of artificial intelligence, but then starting to connect the dots. Because in corporate America, I would never really was in a situation where I could stand up and talk about my cultural background, talk about some of the other aspects of my life that, you know, the notion of wearing two masks, right? We wear multiple faces, one at work, one at home. I think now I'm at a place where I'm gonna merge these two worlds and just tell my story and motivate a new generation of,
Excuse me.
motivate a new generation of revolutionary thinkers, because there is so much at stake right now with our future. And I'm not just talking about politics, I'm talking about
Right.
society. Our technologies are at a place now where these algorithms are going to control a lot of things in our daily lives, all aspects of our life. Every occupation is impacted. And we have to have more diversity around the table so that when decisions are being made about what technology, how to create technologies, how to implement them, how to configure them, how to deploy them, we need a diverse set of perspectives around the table because these things are going to continue to have implications on the way that we live, the way that we work, the way that we raise our families. And they already are. But when we get into a world where a lot more things are automated and decisions are being made completely without human intervention because these things are being just, programmed in, we need to make sure that these technologies are developed in a way that has all of our diverse perspectives.
And I want for my audience, so they know, we're in the year of a pandemic that I've never seen before. It's worldwide. Where would we be, Alan, without technology if we didn't have it during this pandemic? How would we go to church? How would we order DoorDash food? I mean, what would we be doing?
Right. So, and I talk about this in some of my webinars. So we're in a digital world right now. And it didn't happen overnight. But what the pandemic did is it accelerated the usage of all of these digital technologies. It's a completely different world right now. So most of us are working from home. Remote learning, if you're in school or if you have children in school, how are you getting your groceries when you're in a global pandemic? You may order it online. So there's actually a lot of research around this. Like there's the volume of online transactions. Back in April 2019, the forecast of the growth of online transactions compared to where we are today, we're essentially 4 years ahead of where people thought we would be a year ago.
Wow, amazing.
And it's not going to slow down because we live in a capitalistic society. We have organizations and corporations that are going to continue to, benefit from that, right? But also it's helping us, right? In a lot of ways, it is helping us, right? The convenience that it's providing, the fact that I could call an Uber and it shows up in 5 minutes and get me to my destination, within 15 minutes. That's an amazing thing. What we do have to be careful about, though, is some of the other implications, right? And I don't want to get too deep into this because I could cover this specific topic for hours, but it's really important. My conviction is to motivate more people of color to get involved in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain. These are transformational technologies that is creating what's known as our fourth industrial revolution. This is real. And what I talk about is that our people have never been in a situation before where we were able to benefit from an industrial revolution.
Wow. So there's a couple of follow-up questions that I have after that. You mentioned, I want to talk to you about a school of thought. I had just had a discussion this week about it, and I will not put an age on it, but there's some old schools of thought that says, well, if you're telecommuting, you're not doing as much work as if you were face to face. How do we change that for a lot of the employers? You want to have your employers safe at home, but at the same time, you want to trust that they're getting the things they need done. How do they finally accept technology? Or is that something you had to deal with at all?
Well, who's they?
What's that?
Who is they?
Well, I'm in higher education, and
Okay.
You have a lot of schools of thoughts, and outside of, let's say this, outside of some of the business schools that may think, well, if you're having an online class, you're not getting much done as far as teaching from a teaching perspective, things like that. You're not being as studious if you were face to face. And maybe you think that same thing, but how do we get the message across that this is the way we're going and you're going to have to change or your fire would be put out?
Got it. So this is hard, right? This is really hard. what these technologies are allowing us to do is fundamentally change the way that we do things. And that's what this next wave is about. Education, healthcare, these digital technologies which have never existed before. And that's where the opportunity is around. If we're able to think creatively with an understanding of what the potential is for these technologies, and we have to view it as an opportunity, then we are in a position, because the tools are out there, and a lot of them are like just open source and free. So we could get together and figure some things out that we've never been able to do before. So now embracing the change is always difficult, always.
Yes.
Even, you know, going from horses to cars, right? Somebody was really upset about that, right? And what we have to grapple with and what we have to prepare for our communities for is the transition. And that's where there's a gap. It takes longer for the transition than it does for the technology to advance. And
I like that. I like that.
That's where we get caught up. That's where we get caught up. But this is why these technologies could be used to help to accelerate that transition, right? Upskilling and reskilling. You know, if I better understand your background and your occupation, and you better understand where your occupation is going, what the opportunities are for you, your expertise is nursing. Well, how can technology enable you to be an innovator in nursing, or just to be a little more valuable on your staff and on your team, right? But we have to really embrace this learning, right? In order for us to pivot and look at the next 100 years, not just for ourselves, but for our families, and how these technologies can open some doors that have never been opened before. And I'm super excited because attending National Black MBA Association, some of the topics and the panels around future of technology and stuff, and I've attended, and this is testament to the opportunity. Last week, I attended 3 conferences.
Wow.
Would I ever have been able to do that?
No, I wouldn't have met you, by the way.
Right. So
right.
I attended a conference on technology. While I was attending National Black MBA, I was like also attending another one and then another one because they were just happening in the same week. I would have never, if it was physical, I would have never had that broad set of education, networking opportunities, all the incredible content that I was able to document, the notes that I took. It's amazing what the potential is. But back to your question, this is where our community, we really need to have a network of revolutionary thinkers that truly understands where these technologies are going, how to use them. And you combine that with people like yourself, or that have some questions and concerns, or maybe they see some opportunities. We need to combine these people together to innovate and to create the future for our communities. I mean, it's easier said than done. And really, this is what I'm about right now. This is why I took a pause and a step back and said, wait a minute. We really have to be in a better position where, how do we motivate more people to get into this field? You college students that are out there, graduate students, even teachers, staff, you know, how do we start to really get excited about what's around the corner? Because if we look at it as, if we treat it, if we view ourselves as victims, we're not seeing the opportunity. We're not seeing the opportunity. And this is also going to be an incredible wealth building era. And we have a huge opportunity to take advantage of that. And I'm completely impressed by so many people that I've met, that I interacted with, that I was impressed with on panels, in the chat rooms, what people were saying something's in the water. Something is in the water. And our youth, our folks that are seniors in their career, mid-career, a lot of people are excited about what the potential opportunities are for what lies ahead.
So in addition to the dialogue, having you get your information out there beyond this podcast, what can an undergraduate student do to be a part of that industrial revolution, if you will? What can we do? Name one thing that we can do to just roll up our sleeves.
Well, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn. Right? You know, I can help guide you. I'm building some things now that would make it a lot easier for all of us to do that. You know, creating digital hubs and you know, an ecosystem around innovation for our communities. You know, because I'm completely convinced if I get the right 12 people together and we jump on a call, amazing things are going to come out of it.
I am in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with it. And you talked about the conferences. This is a good segue into what happened at the conference. Was it valuable? What was your honest opinion about it? What is your takeaway from the conference? And do you plan on going next year, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll be going every year. You know, I'm a member of the organization. So yeah, again, I think it's a combination of, they had really good topics, and it was an action-packed agenda, multiple things going on. So you were able to kind of choose your track and your experience, and which ones you go to, which ones you don't go to. And what's also amazing, and this is a big message for people out there that are looking for jobs and looking for opportunities, you have to be so active on these chats to be recognized, to be known. And then, you know, it was literally a conference with all of its bells and whistles, except it was completely virtual. So you had over like 25 to 50 vendors, recruiters. Each of them had their own chat room. You had to enter the room, your camera turned on. What were you looking like? How did you present yourself? Like, there's so many things that now, and this is very different from my experience. This may be normal now for some of the students that are just getting into this, but you really have to approach this with a certain finesse and style and professionalism, and really understand how to really maximize your potential for networking. And, you know, the first question a lot of people ask me, what's your story? And I haven't been asked that in a long time. I mean, when I went to business school, like every time you showed up and you shook hands with a recruiter, the first thing they say is, well, so what's your story? And you got to answer that in 2 minutes, like really good. But that's the first question they gave me in the chat. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, what do I, you know, but these are some things and opportunities for professional development and training that are completely different from what they used to be a year ago. So I was really impressed by how they orchestrated that whole thing, because there had to be a team of at least 50 to 100 people. There's so many things happening at the same time, you know, and I don't know if there were probably thousands of people that had registered for it. But the interaction, the chat room was amazing. The topics of the panel discussions were amazing. And I came out of it with relationships. You know, now I'm talking to you and reaching an audience. So I thought all that was phenomenal.
Yeah, and you can't be afraid during these conferences to let down your nets, plural, right? You have to try to reach as many people as possible. There's so many opportunity. I came on to review the conference itself, and so many other things happen. And you were able to see the pitches of the business ideas and the innovation. And although all of them were not computer science related, they all involve some kind of technology, if you were able to sit in on that. And I think it was just such a great, you could not do everything. And what I like about it is some of the things are on demand. So if you miss something, you can go back and listen to it. So I think that's great. I think that's great. I'm hoping that if we are meeting face to face next year, that they will do a hybrid so I can participate next year. It's just so great. What's the future of your life, where you're going? What's the directional for you?
Good question. So again, first of all, I have a 3-year-old daughter.
Oh,
Also, a big influence in my decision to hit the pause button on the last 25 years, which seemed like it was just one big marathon run. I'm not finished yet at all. I feel like it's just the beginning. And I'm really excited because I need to reach more people. Everyone listening to this, if you want to be part of a community of revolutionary thinkers, if you want to help to innovate the future, these technologies really provide us with tools we've never had before. The ability to create our own institutions, the ability to, and even if you're not on the track of being an entrepreneur or a job creator, even allowing you to really elevate yourselves within company, within corporate America, whatever it is, and whatever occupation or field. So that's really my focus right now, is continuing to preach the gospel of the future of technology and its implications on society, on our jobs. To me, that is paramount. Increasing awareness and the consciousness around this within our communities, working with other people doing exactly what I'm doing. There's a lot of us out there that have taken the stage to talk about this. And that's what it's about for me, right? So building that community, I have a few things going on. I'm probably going to be supporting a startup or two, and really throwing my entire energy behind those efforts. And I hope you hear from me again in terms of this topic. There's so many threads that we could go into, not just on the technology side, but also just on a professional side. How does these things impact the way that we live and work? So I'm really super excited about this. And over the next 4 to 6 weeks, I probably have 3 or 4 more virtual conferences to attend. From the World Economic Forum and United Nations to Afrotech and more professional Black organizations. There's such a wide array of activities and events happening. I think it feels like conference season right now, really. So that's really what I'm about. And I hope that each of you are able to connect with me. I'm happy to, I walked away from National Black MBA with at least 50 contacts.
wow. Isn't that wonderful? It's worth it. It's worth going out there. We're going to have the link to that website in this YouTube channel in the comment section. We'll have the LinkedIn information as well. Also a link to that book. Anything else you're working on that we need to look into? Like, what community service work are you doing that we should support?
Oh, absolutely. So I am part of my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. Also, I'm a member, the founding chapter of 100 Black Men.
Oh, yeah.
Started in New York. I'm a member there. We're planning our next year's gala, which is going to be virtual. So first time that we do a virtual gala, how do we go about doing that? I'm also on the board of an organization called the Haitian Roundtable, which is a group of Haitian American professionals, and we really are, civic advocates for our communities, helping to change the perspective that people have on Haiti and the people from Haiti, and trying to increase awareness about the history of Haiti. Haitian history is Black history. It really is. So these are just some of the things that I'm really a part of, and just being an amazing dad. Really, my daughter, who's turning 4 next month, and funny, what's her future and what is her life going to be like in 30 years?
Wow, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, who knows?
Does she have 30 days to figure it out like you did at the age of 4? Okay.
30 days to figure it out. But how can my wife and I, do an amazing job for her, expose her to things, it's 2020. You know, I grew up in the 1970s, completely different world.
That's right.
And to be honest, you know, the approach I wanted to take in being a dad is absolutely not the dad I am today, right? It's just, hey, it's her world, right? How can I
That's
just
right.
hold her to as many things as possible and, you know, check my ego and just, you know, make sure she has amazing experiences.
So what do you like to, we'll end with this. I know you mentioned drawing. What do you like to do for fun? What is your relax time?
My relaxed time, music, you know, reading, playing with my daughter. I run track. I used to run track, so I jog. Um, you know, just really like allowing my mind to refresh itself.
That's all right.
I love to travel as well, but can't do that now. Um, what else? I cook. Actually, cooking is really, it's kind of like therapy for me. Cooking, art, because I'm a big fan of Caribbean art, specifically Haitian art. So we used to travel a lot to Haiti and the Caribbean, and I would always try to really support those artists out there and come back home with something. Um,
I would love to see some links to that. I'm with the School of the Arts, as you know. So that would be a great visual artist. It's wonderful to see.
yeah,
So hopefully we can put some link. Any of your own art you would like to share with the audience?
my own art. Well, I'm not an art. I don't create art.
It's been a while since you did any drawing. I see.
Yeah, you
Okay.
know, being a software engineer, you really have to be creative. You have to think
That's
about
right.
basically how it used to be. You have to think about anything that could go wrong and have an answer to that.
Wow.
You really have to be, and that's why the brain of an engineer, you go through the world thinking there's no problem you can't solve.
It's almost like going backwards from, it kind of sounds like that, you
Right,
know.
right. So
Wow.
there's nothing you can't solve. So it just requires time, you know, how much time, when do you want it, how much money you have to spend on it, and that's it. Like, and then you figure it out. You create a program for it, right? I mean, and so it's that mentality that I'm walking into this next wave of, okay, how do we implement these technologies for good, right? How do we implement them to create prosperity for others, you know? And that's really the challenge that I wake up every day thinking of. And then what stakes do I put in the sand towards that, right? Because there's many different ways to do it. Um, so look, I could talk on and on and on about it, and I can't do it by myself. I cannot do it by myself. So how do you rally a team around that vision? And that's why it's critically important. And that's why as soon as you sent me the emails, I said, sure, I didn't know anything about it, what your organization was. I said, sure, let's do it. Because if anybody that walks out of this session a little more motivated and inspired to change the world, I did my job. And connect with me on LinkedIn because I need you. Like I need you. I need your energy and your passion and the different way of thinking about things, because that's how we're going to shake things up. That's how we're going to really improve our communities. That's how we're going to build generational wealth. And that's important because when you do that, you can help more people. So these are all things. These are all things. That's why I'm super excited about the future.